Hey guys, welcome back to the Immersed Bible Study. Today we're going to talk about the righteousness of Elizabeth and Zechariah. Um, we're going to start over in verse 6. And I do want to apologize if you do hear the lawnmower or a TV. The kids are home and Tony's mowing the yard, but it's quiet. So I was going to go ahead and try to get a video done. Um, I'm just going to kind of jump right into it today. Um, we are still doing the fundraiser for the Messiah's house, throwing the towel. If you guys bring your towels in, um, we can get them shipped out to the Messiah house, take them on back, or you can bring them to the Messiah house, or just contact me if you want to donate privately. I'll get you hooked up with the right people. Same thing with the men's conference. It's going on. I do want to mention that the conference itself is free of charge. You can come and not pay a dime. Um, but they are selling T-shirts, and the T-shirt money is due by September 10th. You want to get with Josh and Tab over that, or if you want to contact me, I can get you in touch with the right people. Again, that's not a problem. And we are located in Malden, Missouri, right across from the golf course. It's called the Voice of Zion Church. That's where the men's conference is going to be October 6th. If you guys would like to come join us, we would love to have you. I do plan on having some stuff on Facebook, um, just kind of promoting it and letting everybody know where and when and all that fun stuff. So you'll have reminders between now and then. You guys need to come to it because last year, I tell you, it was a huge blessing. It was awesome. It was amazing. I can't say enough good. We had an amazing speaker. We had amazing worship, and a lot of good fellowship. It was awesome. It was a great time in the Lord, and we would love to see everybody out and be a part of it. So Zechariah and Elizabeth. If you look at verse 6, I'm going to read it in the King James first. It says, we're going to read 6 and 7. They were both righteous before God, walking in all commandments and ordinance of the Lord blameless. And they had no child because that Elizabeth was barren, and they were both now well stricken in years. That's just a really nice way of saying they were old. They were way past childbearing years. Okay. And the reason this is a big deal is because at this time period in history, according to Jewish custom and laws, if a woman wasn't able to produce a child, then she was considered fallen out of favor with God, like she'd sinned. She did something wrong. She was not a godly woman if she could not have a child. And they would back this up with scriptures from the Old Testament, like in Malachi and over in Psalms, where it speaks about how God blesses a marriage with a child. A child is a gift, it is a blessing, it's an honor to be a parent. So at this time, if a woman could not have a child, she was barren, she was considered like this is her punishment, right? So, and what I have found with studying a lot of this, it wasn't really the men who had a problem and would make fun of these women or degrade them or shame them, which I'm sure that happened too because men were the leaders and women at this time weren't very valued. But that's not true of all men. Just like it's not true of all men today, putting women down. That's not true. A lot of the ridicule that women faced in this time were from other women. If you look back at Hannah, she was ridiculed so badly, she went to temple in tears, so distraught, they thought she was drunk early in the morning. She was just overcome with grief. And that all came from the other wives and the other women at temple. She didn't want to make that journey and shame again. So a lot of shame was cast on you if you couldn't have a child. In fact, they would use those scriptures to justify a divorce. If a wife hadn't given you a child in 10 years, by Jewish law, you had every right to divorce her. Because who wants to be married to an ungodly wife when you're a godly man? You want a family. God said to be fruitful and multiply and have godly offspring. Well, if you can't do that, why, you can't carry your name on, you can't produce godly offspring, a lot of men would divorce their wives. Not Zechariah, though. This is the cool thing about this part of the story. Both Zechariah and Elizabeth, it says, were righteous in the eyes of God. In his sight, they were righteous, they were upright, and they were obeying all of his commands. And you have to remember, this is pre Jesus. Okay, this is pre Jesus. He wasn't even born yet. So they're talking about the commandments of Moses, the law of Moses. How many of us today could keep every single commandment of Moses? I would struggle. I know I would. That's wow. You know what I mean? And it's so strict, and there's so many cleansing rites and all of this that you have to do these rituals, and it's very legalistic, and your works is what saved you. And you have to remember too that at this time, this is 400 years of silence right after that. Like God has not spoke to anybody in 400 years. There's been no prophet, nothing. It wasn't like it is today where God dwells inside of us. At this time, again, pre Jesus. So at this time, his home was the Holy of Holies in heaven. And no one, none of his people had heard a word from God in 400 years. Now, a lot of us today, now that he lives inside of us and we communicate, hopefully, every day with God, we read his word and that's how he speaks to us. Sometimes we may hear things, we may see things, visions and dreams and prophecies. That's still very active. Spiritual warfare is still very real. Now we have God living inside of us. This time they didn't. We can't go 400 days without hearing the voice of God, without having doubts and wondering what's wrong and what did we do? Did we do something to take that presence away? What happened? And then our faith begins to dwindle. Could you imagine 400 years? That sounds like absolute hell on earth to me. Just no God. You can pray and pray and pray and do things and do things and do things and nothing. So what you're telling me is after 400 years of no favor, no word, no prophecy, nothing from God, he finds two people. Now these are both descendants of Aaron. So what that means is Elizabeth's father is a priest. She comes from a godly family and a godly background. And then she married a priest because Zechariah is also a descendant of Aaron. So she came from a godly life and she continued in a godly life, and they kept all of the commandments, even though they couldn't see, feel, hear God at all. That's huge. Like that's dedication. That's faith. And then to top that off, they are met with their righteousness around everybody around them. It is shame. Could you imagine working so hard to stay in favor with God and praying all the time without ceasing for a child to take this shame from them? And now they're old and unable to bear children and still nothing. But these people were like they were keeping up every law. They were holy people. They were an exceptional people. They were good, godly people. And they were faced with shame and ridicule and humiliation every single day until they were old. This just doesn't just testify to their righteousness, but this also testifies to Zechariah's character. He didn't take another wife. He didn't have a child by anybody else. He loved his wife enough to continuously pray for her, keep her covered, wash her in the word, and and pray for God to take their shame. It's believed, from what I can gather, the historians believed that at this time period, because it does go on to talk about how he was chosen by a lot to burn the incense, which we'll get into more later. But at this time period, there was over 20,000 priests that could have been chosen, but Zechariah drew the lot. It wasn't just the prayers outside of the temple that the incense was signifying that was being answered when Gabriel told him that, your prayers are being answered. You found favor with God, your prayers are answered. It wasn't just the people's prayers. He was talking specifically to Zechariah. Could you imagine? He was the first one in 400 years to hear from God. And that word was a promise. It's pretty neat. I don't, like I said, I don't know what's going on with my comments, but if you want to comment on my other Facebook page and stuff, or you have any prayer requests, please feel free to do so. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna do a little bit at a time because I want to make sure that we totally understand the background and stuff too. Because this is pretty cool. I'm finding all kinds of cool bonus information when you go digging. I didn't realize until recently that there really is a difference between reading the word and studying the word. And I am so excited to do this. I don't know. I hope you guys are too. If you need anything, just let me know. I'll be happy to pray for all of you, or chat with you about the stuff, or if you know anything that I don't know, any extra little information like this, please feel free to share it. We would love to know. We'd love to study it out with you. Thank you. Love you guys.